The Halloween Curse. The town of Hollowfield had always been quiet, but every Halloween night, something sinister lurked in its shadows. This year, however, the town was on edge, for it was the centenary of the Hollowfield Curse, a legend every local grew up fearing. They said that every 100 years, on Halloween night, the spirit of Madeline Crane would rise, seeking revenge on those who wronged her in life. Madeline Crane was once a healer, a kind woman who lived in the woods, known for her potions and remedies. But in 1823, a mysterious plague swept through Hollowfield. The townsfolk, desperate and scared, turned on Madeline, accusing her of witchcraft. They believed she had cursed the town, and in a fit of madness, dragged her into the woods and burned her at the stake. As her life was consumed by flames, she swore vengeance on the town, cursing it for all eternity. 100 years later, in 1923, a string of gruesome murders occurred on Halloween. Witnesses claimed to see a woman in a tattered black dress roaming the streets, her face hidden under a veil, her skin charred and burnt. By dawn, 5 townsfolk were found dead, their eyes wide open, with a look of unimaginable terror frozen on their faces. It was now Halloween, 2023, and the townsfolk of Hollowfield couldn't shake the feeling that Madeline would rise again. The town was empty by nightfall. Doors were locked, windows covered, and families huddled together, praying for the night to pass peacefully. Only a group of teenagers dared to break the silence. Jake, Emma, Lucas, and Sarah were known for their love of all things scary, and they couldn't resist the chance to investigate the legend of Madeline Crane. Armed with flashlights and a video camera, they made their way to the old oak tree where Madeline had met her end. The air was thick with a chilling fog that seemed to grow denser as they approached. The woods felt alive with an eerie energy, and every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves made the teens jump. Their nerves were raw, each step feeling heavier as they ventured deeper into the woods. Sarah, usually the fearless one, began glancing over her shoulder, feeling as if they were being watched. The silence of the forest was unnatural, as if the entire place was holding its breath. As they drew closer to the oak tree, Jake noticed strange symbols carved into the trees surrounding it, symbols none of them recognized. Emma shivered as she traced one of the symbols with her fingers, feeling an unnatural chill radiate from the carving. These weren't here before, right? She asked nervously, but no one answered. They could feel that something was wrong, as if they had stepped into a place that didn't want them there. Suddenly they heard a faint whisper, almost too soft to catch. It was a voice calling out, faint and ghostly, like a distant echo. "Help me," it murmured. The teenagers froze, looking at each other with wide eyes. Did anyone else hear that?" Lucas whispered, his voice trembling. The whispering grew louder, but it was disjointed, shifting between pleading cries and angry growls. The words became clearer, filled with torment. They burned me. They cursed themselves. The teenagers began to panic, turning their flashlights in every direction, searching for the source of the voice. But the fog grew thicker, swallowing the beams of light and leaving them feeling utterly alone. Just as they were about to turn back, Jake felt something cold brush against his hand. He looked down, seeing a thin, ghostly hand reaching out from the shadows. He stumbled back, gasping, as the figure of a woman in a burnt, tattered dress emerged from the fog. Her veil was draped over her face, hiding the full extent of her twisted features. "Please," the figure whispered, extending a charred hand toward them. "Release me." Her voice was filled with pain, a haunting plea that sent shivers down their spines. But as they watched, her demeanor shifted, her voice turning sharp and vengeful. Or suffer, as I have. Emma took a step back, tripping over a root, her scream piercing the silence as the figure moved closer. The air turned frigid, and the smell of smoke and decay filled their lungs. The ghostly figure lifted her veil slightly, revealing glimpses of her scorched skin and hollow, lifeless eyes that seemed to stare right through them. With trembling hands, Sarah raised the video camera, recording the horrifying apparition. But when she looked through the lens, she saw more than just Madeline. Faces appeared, twisted and tormented, blending into Madeline's figure, crying out in silent agony. Sarah stumbled back, dropping the camera in shock. "Do you feel it?" Madeline hissed, her voice a guttural growl. "The fear, the betrayal that you all carry within you." Her voice grew louder, filling the air around them. "You will suffer, just as I suffered." One by one, the teenagers tried to run, but the fog grew thicker, trapping them in place. Madeline's voice echoed, filled with rage and sorrow. "I was wronged, and now you shall pay," Jake screamed, as he felt icy hands grip his shoulders. Emma's voice cracked as she pleaded for mercy, but the spirit was unrelenting. Each teenager felt a wave of terror as Madeline whispered secrets of their darkest fears, her voice like nails scratching against stone. In a final desperate attempt, Sarah pulled out the camera, hoping to capture proof of the spirit. She pointed it toward Madeline, her finger trembling as she pressed record. But when she looked through the lens, she saw not just Madeline, but the faces of the townsfolk who had wronged her, twisted and tormented, screaming out from the flames. As dawn approached, the fog lifted, and the townsfolk cautiously stepped out of their homes. Near the old oak tree, they found the camera, abandoned, with the lens shattered. No one ever saw Jake, Emma, Lucas, or Sarah again. But every Halloween since, strange recordings have surfaced on the townsfolk's phones and TVs. Footage of their final moments, their faces contorted in terror as Madeline Crane took her revenge once more. And with every new Halloween, the spirit of Hollowfield grows stronger, waiting, watching for her next victims.